From missing persons to murder victims, police aren't revealing much more as to what happened to Andrew Kinsman or Selim Esen. Just that their killer is allegedly a 66-year-old landscaper named Bruce McArthur, who, as of today, has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
As of right now, interviews are taking place, and police have secured 5 properties, 4 in Toronto and 1 in Madoc, connected to Bruce McArthur in an effort to further investigate these occurrences.
Police won't discuss the evidence that led them to McArthur or how the 2 men died.
We have a pretty good idea of what the cause of death is, but I'm not ready to discuss that yet.
They haven't even found their bodies.
I'm well aware of the difficulty of prosecuting people without recovering the bodies, but in this case we believe we have strong enough evidence where we can do exactly that.
And police believe McArthur may be responsible for more disappearances.
I'm telling you, he's killed at least 2 people that we know of, and we believe there are more victims.
Police won't use the term serial killer, but people in the village were quick to use it.
My first reaction, honest to God, is I thought there was a serial killer working in this neighborhood.
It didn't look good. People just don't disappear.
So tonight here in the Church and Wellesley neighbourhood, families of other missing men may be bracing themselves for the news of their loved ones. Alicia Esen, CBC News, Toronto.
So there is concern, but also relief tonight that police have the suspect in custody and overriding thoughts for many on the victims. Ron Charles has more about them.
Andrew Kinsman volunteered at the Toronto HIV/AIDS network for decades, and so the 49-year-old's sudden disappearance in June did not go unnoticed, especially to the dozens of people he worked with. They mounted searches in ravines, parks, and trails. Nicole Borthwick met Kinsman while volunteering at the network's food bank.
Andrew was very kind and gentle and loving. He was loving toward his community. No matter who came in the food bank, he was always very generous, very loving, supporting toward them. He was one to greet a stranger every day.
Kinsman's sister Patricia says her family now wants their chance to say goodbye.
We want his body found, and I don't know. We're just going to have to go day by day right now. I don't know. It's too hard to comprehend right now.
It's understood Selim Esen came to Canada from Turkey about 3 years ago. The 44-year-old sometimes attended the Toronto Metropolitan Community Church, which does outreach in the LGBT community.
He went missing, but nobody at the church recognized who he was. I was the one that questioned my friend who said, "Have you heard from Selim?" And he assumed that he went back to Turkey. He assumed that he went back home.
But soon both men's faces shared missing persons posters all over the city. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
The gay village around Church and Wellesley streets has been at the center of this case. In the last 8 years, at least 8 people have been found dead or are still missing and feared dead, all from the LGBTQ community. It's led people to believe the cases are connected and to demand more from police. Posters like these were tacked up throughout the village, leaving many in the neighborhood on edge.
It's always a concern when things get bad enough that the police feel a need to post, a 24-hour watch.
While police put together a dedicated team to investigate the missing and looked at disappearances dating back to 2010, many in the LGBTQ community accuse them of not taking the cases seriously.
Disgusting. No question about it. The thing is riddled with bigotry and incompetence from beginning to end. Oh, I don't have the least amount of confidence in Toronto Police Service.
As recently as last month, police tried to calm fears and explicitly rejected rumors of a serial killer.
The evidence today tells us that there is not a serial killer based on the evidence that's involved.
Today, the police chief defended that statement.
In policing, what we do is we follow the evidence, and what I said at the time that I said was accurate at that time.
We saw some of the community reaction in Alicia Esen's story, but we wanted to dig deeper. So Nick Purdon asked people how all the uncertainty has caused them to change their day-to-day lives.
I definitely feel a bit more nervous being here at night. It's somewhere I used to feel really safe, even talking to strangers. So now I would be a bit more hesitant to maybe strike up that conversation with someone. You think maybe they would have a bad intent, when before you always just assume people are out to have fun and not hurt anyone.
What's it like to say that? I mean, that's a profound change.
It is definitely a shock. Like, I'm originally from Halifax, and even my friends in Halifax were saying, you know, we would come and visit you and go out in Church and Wellesley and have such a good time. And now it's on the news there, and it is a bit kind of scary. It's definitely a shift in the community, and they still haven't found out about the other 2 missing people, and that is definitely a worry.
It's kind of like I feel like terrorized, if you know what I mean. Like, everybody's scared for their own well-being, and nobody trusts anyone anymore. It's different. Things have changed because of the missing people.
What would you say the role of the police has been? Have they done what the community wanted? Has it been slow? How would you characterize that?
I believe it's a little too late, but at least they're doing something. That's how I feel about it. At least something's being done. It's a relief that they possibly got somebody dangerous off the streets.
So I kind of stuck myself away from the village because of all this happening so much. So maybe now I might get out my doors and actually go into the community more and actually commit to what I need to do. And that's open up and, you know, be a happy gay person in Toronto.
Are you saying that because of people disappearing, you left the village and you changed your lifestyle and who you are a little bit?
Yes, I kind of closed and sheltered myself a little bit to make sure I would be safe and my husband would be safe. So other than that, yes. Now hopefully might step out a little bit more and actually have a little more fun in the village. Because really, we couldn't have fun in the village if all this stuff was happening at nighttime or through the daytime. You know, it's not safe.
For more on this, we're joined by Mike Arntfeld, a former police officer, a criminologist, and a professor at Western University in London, Ontario. So Toronto Police Service says it got a major break on this case last night. What do you make of that?
Well, the only inference to draw based on that information is that there was some discovery made last night that significantly expedited this investigation and gave the police the evidence they needed to lay 2 counts of first-degree murder, announce those charges, and make an arrest. And historically, in a case where no body is recovered in order to confirm a murder, and in this case 2 bodies, I mean, I don't know of a case like this, that would typically mean some type of evidence in such a quantity, whether it's images or videos or multimedia files or blood in sufficient quantity, trace amounts of blood in sufficient quantity, that the only reasonable inference to draw is that these men were murdered and that they were murdered by the accused.
And that there are more victims, as the police made very clear. They believe that's the case, though they can't identify those victims. And so, if the police are right here, this would fit the definition that most people have of a serial killer. What about the criticism that the Toronto police didn't take that suggestion seriously enough, early enough?
Right. It's still early days to begin armchair quarterbacking how this investigation was managed. I mean, I can tell you 2 years ago, my cold case research group at Western was getting emails from concerned citizens and relatives and friends of some of these people saying these disappearances are suspicious, they're clustering at certain times, the police aren't taking it seriously. But I mean, that's not to say that the police necessarily weren't. I mean, we heard a few weeks ago, they said there is not an active serial killer in Toronto. Well, what you see them doing publicly and what's actually going on behind the scenes may be 2 different things. And we need to wait and see in terms of how this investigation was managed and when it was actually sort of activated before we begin saying, that they dropped the ball. It seems to me that they've been making some very careful investigative strategic decisions the whole time.
Mike Arntfeld, always nice to have your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.